G'day you legends and welcome to another Digimon deck profile. Today we're going to be looking at the little brother of the big bad villain of a couple of sets ago, Blue Hybrid. That's right, we're going to be looking at Blue Flare. Now before we get into the deck profile, a couple of things we need to know. One is that this deck has mostly a pretty grand time against decks that love to go wide. So Bloom Lord, Jesmon, D-Brigade, that sort of stuff. Usually has a pretty good time, but it does struggle with those one stack OTK decks. But we've put a few little techs in, which we'll talk about in just a moment, which can help those matchups be a little bit more favorable for us. But enough talking, let's get into the profile. Starting off with our eggs, we are just running 4 of the best blue egg for this style of deck, which is Upamon. Simply, it's inheritable when attacking once per turn. When our opponent has a Digimon with no sources, we draw one. Just helps with being more consistent, find those pieces that we need. Now having a look at our level 3s. First up, we have 4 of the Gaussmon, the blue Gaussmon, the Blue Flare Gaussmon. So its effect is on deletion, we can play a level 4 with Blue Flare in its traits from our hand suspended. So it can help us get out a few things. One is we can get out the Greymon, which on play we get to search the top 4, add 2 cards with Blue Flare. The other thing that's really good to call off it is your Decadramon. You get to draw a card for playing it and then 1 card for each Digimon that your opponent has. And the old male Birdramon, also another good one. We can play a Kiriha or Christopher, whichever one you want to go with, from our hand if we don't have one in play. If we do, we get to recover a Metal Greymon, which is vital for some of our combos. The next level 3 that we are running 3 Jamming Vmon. So as I said before, this deck really does struggle against one stacked OTK decks. So big thing that we can do is just try and rush them down nice and quick. And Vmon does that really nice with that jamming, just applies that extra pressure, makes our opponent attack into him rather than trying to take us out. So yeah, also really great to use Upamon's effect over and over again if your opponent has a bunch of stuff out there with no sources. And the last of the level 3s that we are running 3 Madoki Betamon. So Madoki Betamon's in there just to stop things like your Bloom Lord from gaining a bunch of extra memory. Same with your Jesmon and all those decks that are running memory boosts. So it can be quite handy to have that. Now, if you do want to play a bit more of a control-y type of thing, less fast-paced aggression, you can swap out the Vmons for something like a Sakromon, just another floodgate to help slow down your opponent. Personally, I like to try and be nice and aggressive, swing in as much as we can as soon as we can. Now, moving on to the level 4s. We are running 4 of the Blue Flare Greymon, which is on play, which you spoke about before. Reveal the top 4, add 2 cards with Blue Flare in their traits to your hand, place the rest at the bottom of the deck. And then on deletion, if we have a Tamer in place, we can save it instead of deleting. So basically what that means, if you don't know, say if you have a Tamer, this guy gets deleted. Instead of him going into the trash, you can just tuck him underneath the Tamer. Now we are also running 1 more Greymon in the deck. We are running 1 starter deck security attack plus 1 Greymon. Now the reason why we are running that is that our level 5 Metal Greymon, its Digicross requires a Greymon and a male Birdramon. It doesn't say anything else specifically as to what Greymon, just any kind of Greymon, which is nice. So we can run that starter deck Greymon as a spicy little tech just to apply a bit more pressure. Like I said, when I rush down those OTK decks as quick as we can, this card can help us do that. Our next 4 for our level 4s, we are running 4 male Birdramon. That is the other piece that is required for that Metal Greymon we were just talking about. It's on play is you can play a Kiriha or Christopher, whichever version you have, from our hand if we don't have one, and then if we do have one, we can recover a Metal Greymon from the trash. It also has an on deletion save, and it's inheritable as if our opponent has 2 or more Digimon in play, we can stun one of our opponent's Digimon. So I did forget to mention the inheritable on Greymon here. If this Digimon is Blue Flare and our opponent has 2 or more Digimon in play, we can unsuspend it. So same requirements to trigger the male bird effect. except instead of stunning, we can unsuspend. So get in another attack, which is quite nice. The last of the blue flare level 4s that we're running, we are running just 3 Decadramon. So Decadramon is all about drawing your cards. As we mentioned before, on play, we have to draw 1. And then we also get to draw an additional 1 for each Digimon our opponent has in play. So those going wide boards, we're drawing like 5, 6, 7 cards, which is fantastic. But at the very least, we're drawing 1, which is nice. The inheritable on this guy is all turns. While your opponent has 2 or more Digimon in play, this Digimon gains 1000. So it's nice to have that all turns 1000 buff, just to help keep our Metal Greymons and Deca Greymons alive. The next level 4 that we're running, we are running 3 of the EX02 Leomon. So its effect is on opponent's turn. If we have a tamer in play, this guy gains blocker, which is nice. And then on deletion, regardless if there's a tamer or not, we get to gain 2 memory and draw a card. So it's a nice defensive tool in that blocker aspect, but it also acts as a bit of a repellent because sometimes our opponent don't want to attack in and give us that extra draw, or that gaining 2 memory may pass turn back to us. So yeah, Leomon can be quite good. The last level 4s that we're running, we are running 2 Kumamon. Hybrid for game is absolutely fantastic, but we are running the Kumamon over the Lobomon here just because sometimes that when Digivolving Trash 1 Digievolution source can be handy for us. In particular because our Metal Greymon's stunning effect requires the Digimon that we stun to have the same or less sources than himself. So sometimes that Kumamon effect trash does come up and is quite handy. So moving on to the level 5s, the guy that we've been talking about a bunch already, we are running 4 of the Metal Greymon, the Blue Flare BT10 Metal Greymon. So it's on play is it gains Rush, and then if we Digicross, so meaning we use the Greymon and Male Bergermon, we can then stun up to 3 Digimon with the same or less sources than this Metal Greymon, which is absolutely crazy. And so going wide boards really locks your opponent out from doing anything. And then it's Digicross, so you do have to, like, so on play, as we spoke about there, it's Digicross is -2 for each Digimon played underneath it. So when we play both the Greymon and the Male Bergermon, it is only a 3 to hard play, which is absolutely super doable, especially with Kiriha being a memory tamer can set us to 3, so we're usually guaranteed to start with 3. And then it's on deletion is material save 2, so when it dies we can save the 2 sources underneath it under the tamer, which we've shown you just before. So before I forget to mention, the Digicross for Metal Greymon, we can use cards from our hand or that are in play, but if we do have a Kiriha in play with some sources underneath, his effect is we can tap him to then use the sources underneath him, which is super great. So when we save them, they go on to Kiriha, we can use them to make our Metal Greymon. So the last level 5s, we've got Deca Greymon. So Deca Greymon is a Digimon with Armor Purge, super handy to know. It is 2 cost to go on top of a level 5, so which means we can go on top of our Greymon for 2, which is nice, or 4 cost on top of a level 4, which is a bit steep, but sometimes does come up. It's on play, and when Digivolving is we can place a card with Blue Flare, doesn't specify a level, but you're only really going to be going for the level 4s. Then if there's a Decadramon in this Digimon's sources, we get to stun one of our opponent's Digimon. So that means no attacking or blocking until the end of their next turn. So it's Digicross minuses it by 2 for a Metal Greymon and a Decadramon that are placed underneath. So its play cost will end up being 5 with both of those pieces. But I usually am Digivolving on top of the Metal Greymon just as that extra protection with the Armor Purge, and then we can still then save materials from the Metal Greymon. So they have to attack a few times, just that nasty little Armor Rush kind of play style there. Moving on to the Tamers in the deck, we are running 3, that's right, only 3 Kiriha or Christophers. Now the reason why we are running 3 is because you only really need to see 1, and I found that 4 just became a bit too much. It was always bricking on Kirihas. But it is a memory resetter, so we always start our turn with 3 memory, which is great. And then to your turn, when you play one Digimon with Digicross requirements, you can suspend this tamer to use Digimon that are underneath this tamer. Super handy, and it's a classic tamer, plays out of security, which is really, really nice. Next up, we are running 2 Sora Joe. Start of our turn, if our opponent has a Digimon with no sources, we gain 2 memory, which is nice. That extra memory is always good. And then when attacking is also handy for us, is we can trash, when a blue Digimon attacks, we can trash 2 sources under one of our opponent's Digimon, which helps us get our Metal Greymon Sun effect live more frequently, which is really great. The last tamer that we are running Tommy. Yes, Tommy. We are running one of him because you can only run one of him. I know a lot of you may have been getting some PTSD from the blue hybrid days, but Tommy's really good because it's on play is we get to trash 3 sources under one of our opponent's Digimon. So it's really good against those tower decks that really need their sources, like your Metal Garurumon or your Ancient Greymon, things like that. Tommy also has an inheritable, so if we go over him with Kuma, we get to strip from Kuma's effect. And then we also, when attacking once per turn until the end of your opponent's next turn, one of your opponent's Digimon with no sources cannot attack or block. So just another way that we can get a bit of stun. So moving on to our options, we are running 4 of the Blazing Memory Boost. So this card is absolutely insane. 5 cost to hard play. Seems a bit steep, but let me tell you its effect. Its main is we can reveal the top 6 cards of our deck. Fantastic. Then add 2 cards with blue flare in its traits. May I remind you that Kiriha and Blazing Memory Boost both have blue flare in their traits, so we can grab them, so they are searchable. And then we can put into play one Kiriha or Christopher without paying its memory cost. Now, the catch is we do have to add 2 blue flare cards to then play the Christopher. Or if we don't have 2 blue flare cards, say that we only see a Christopher and a Metal Greymon out of those 6, we have to add them to our hand. You cannot play the Kiriha / Christopher. Now it is a memory boost, so it does have a delay effect of gain 2 memory, which is super nice. Make sure that we can always have enough memory to make the plays that we want, whether that is to hard play that Metal Greymon or whether it's to go into that Deca Greymon on top of that Metal Greymon. Next up, we are running another memory boost. We've got Howling Memory Boost here. So this one, it helps strip sources, so on play, trash 2 sources, and then we can stun something with no sources, so it cannot attack or block. So another way to get some good stun. And then it's the classic delay, gain 2 memory. Next up, we are running 2 Forbidden Trident. So there are some pesky rookies out there, especially those that stop us from reducing play cost, like your Psychmon, your Solomon, Chikurimon. They can really put a bit of a damper on the deck, so that's why Forbidden Trident's really great. It's a 1 cost option. The main effect is one of your Digimon gets 2000 DP, and then also when attacking, return one of your opponent's level 3 Digimon to its owner's hand, and it's not once per turn either. So if we have that Metal Grey that can swing twice, we can bounce back 2 Digimon, which is great. And it being a 1 cost option, you can simply just use it to choke your opponent to 1 memory. Its security effect is just add it to your hand, so it doesn't matter if it's in there, it'll come to us and it will be useful to us. It's also really good against bouncing those memory blockers as well, so that we can make sure that our memory boost, which we run a few of, can stay alive. Rounding out the options, we have 1 Ice Wall because Ice Wall is just busted. 1 cost option. Main effect is all your opponent's Digimon gain when attacking lose 2 memory. Super nice. And then its security is gain 2 memory. Nice to see that. And then the last of our options, we are running a Cocytus Breath. So this is another card that helps us against those stack decks. Its main effect is return one of your opponent's Digimon to its owner's hand and trash everything underneath. So yeah, can really put a damper on those OTK decks if they hit that insecurity, and we can also use that just to control the board a bit more if we need to, if we see it in our hand. Alright guys, there is the deck in all its glory for those that didn't want to hear me babble on there. But let us know in the comment section what you like about the deck, what you don't like about it, and have you played something similar, worked for you, didn't. But yeah, let us know your thoughts. Also, let us know if you want to see anything else profiled here on the channel. But yeah, keep your eyes peeled. More Digimon stuff coming soon your way. Thanks for tuning in. We love you. Stay beautiful. See you in the next one.